Hello, I'm Melissa R. Thompson, or M for short, and this video is a long one, so I'm gonna quickly introduce the subject. Kung Fu Panda 4 was something. Some people hated it, some people thought it was mid, and others liked it. If you liked it, I'm glad. My brothers never really watched the original 3, but they liked the movie. But I, for one, hated it. It was mid at best and insulting at worst. It felt as if Po never changed since the first movie. I thought this movie would revolve around a more experienced, wise, but still goofy Po. The art direction reminded me more of Sing, and that wouldn't be bad if it was a Sing movie, but Kung Fu Panda is known for its unique art style. Not to mention there are so many plot holes, an unscary villain, a predictable plot, and a weird passing of the torch storyline that didn't make sense. So I want to quickly touch on those and then jump on to my rewrite. The first thing that jumped out was the weird art style in the movie. This was mainly because Nico Marlette didn't work on this movie, so that answers why it looks so derivative. Also, I didn't know if anyone saw this, but there's one point in the movie where Po and Zen are being chased by bull policemen, and it looked off. Like they only had one run cycle, and it was copy and pasted with the camera movement hiding it. I don't know how to get the clip, but I feel no one is talking about it. That was probably due to the lack of animators working on the movie. Second, the confusing reason why the chameleon needed tributes from the crime lords. She was given so much gold, and I could maybe conclude it was to keep the crime lords under her thumb, but then it says it's because it's almost time for the ritual? Huh? Where and why are they getting this money? Also, the chameleon is stealing from the city. The bandits underneath the city are stealing, and then the 3 extra crime lords? How is the city still wealthy? I would understand if the city was portrayed to be in poverty, but nope. Third, the main villain is evil because she was told she was too small to learn Kung Fu. She literally recognizes Shifu and acknowledges that Shifu is a legendary Kung Fu master. He looks shorter than her. Like no one wanted you? There's a praying mantis in the Furious 5. Not to mention the evilest thing she did was push someone down some stairs. The 3 bunny kids were more psychotic than her. Fourth, the plot was predictable, and having a predictable plot isn't a bad thing on itself, but what is bad is a predictable plot that is unrewarding. The story felt empty and shallow, so it feels like I wasted my time watching the movie when I love rewatching the trilogy. Finally, the passing of the torch story does not make sense. Po still looks like he's in his 20s. Also, they originally waited for the Dragon Warrior for years, so why does he need a successor all of a sudden? What will the other movies be? Kung Fu not Panda anymore? See what I did there? Weird plot if they plan to make more movies. With all these in mind, big disclaimer, don't expect mine to be better. I'm a novice writer, but I feel Kung Fu Panda could have been more, but because of corporate meddling, it fell flat. DreamWorks executives wanted a quick cash grab, and they had to drag Kung Fu Panda through the mud. But I would like to pitch a few ideas. They could be better, it's up to you, but let's get into it and you can be the judge of it. We open on a dark moon as the city is shrouded in darkness. The only lit candle is flickering over a mother and father as they remind their kids that no candles should be lit after lights out. And the kids repeat this phrase as it's blown out. As a rhyme is told to the children, or a bedtime story. I don't know. Still workshopping that idea. We pan out of the window as they fall asleep and pan to the city where we see the sorcerer's monastery reflected in the puddle. The camera zooms in while rotating, or the camera goes down and flips into the ground to the next scene. I would also like to change the palace. Instead of an industrial looking palace, I would like a small monastery on top of a cliff. The chameleon is shrouded in darkness as she opens a portal with an eerie purple glow. As she performs the ritual, her eyes and mouth glow. Now the biggest change is that she opens the portal by herself. The shot will be reminiscent to the movie, but her portal looks like mist as it opens up. And we see our boy, Tai Lung, emerging from the portal. His guard is up as he steps out, only to confront the chameleon, still shrouded in darkness. Tai Lung gets cocky as he makes his way out of the spirit realm and looks ready to leave. And the sorcerer seems to be okay with it as she moves out of the way. As Tai Lung starts to leave, a metal cage falls onto him, the same one in the movie. Tai Lung hits the bars to escape, but the sigils on the metal glow as it contains him. It's only now he can hear the multiple whispers that follow the chameleon as she approaches, the camera tilted as her laugh resembles wheezing. She then consumes his kung fu, Tai, not realizing what she did, bolts to attack when the cage is lifted. The chameleon's shadow morphs, stepping into the light. She stops Tai's punch with his face. Zooming in on Tai's shocked eyes as it reflects the chameleon in her new, perfect doppelganger form. At this point, we still haven't completely seen her. She paralyzes him and he is thrown back. Her guards quickly gather him as he is dragged back, seeing the chameleon laugh with his mirrored face. Cut to him being thrown in a cell. He is able to finally move around and notices that he's in a dungeon and notices other masters locked up. But not all the cells are full. None know what's going on. That's when he realizes there is only one warrior that can save them. Cut to Po at the noodle shop reopening ceremony with his dads. Because that's obviously more important. That's the only scene I have in my head that's clear, so the rest will be pitched ideas. The story will progress with Tai Lung's escape from the city, as he is shown to be resourceful in the first movie, even if he doesn't have his kung fu. And I know how everyone loves the plot point of Po stepping down, so I'll remove it. Instead of Po leaving his role as Dragon Warrior, he is flourishing at being a teacher. But he still relies on Shifu, just as Shifu relied on Oogway. He is told that it's time for him to extend to the rest of China and bring an era of peace, but he doesn't want to leave his home. As the movie suggests, he's pretty regional. I believe this movie would do Tai Lung a great service if he's the one that arrives at the Jade Palace, asking for the Dragon Warrior himself. He arrives snarling and demanding to see the Dragon Warrior, but it's all teeth and no bite. He tries to stand his ground as Tigress blocks his way. Tai Lung tries to hide his hesitation behind more anger, but Tigress attacks, and Tai Lung gets his ass handed to him. Po steps in when he sees Tai Lung getting the shit beat out of him. Po takes him aside to speak with him as he looks at Tigress defensively. Shifu doesn't really show up in the scene, whether unintentionally or not. Besides, I don't think that Tai Lung is in the right place to talk to Shifu as well, so he intentionally avoids the palace. The rest of the Furious Five will be absent as they are looking into disappearances in other distant towns. I also want to nuke the power of the Chi Staff as it's very overpowered. It can be a give and take weapon as it uses Po's own Chi, thus making him weak after using it, making it the last option in a fight or he's out like a light. This could be demonstrated at the tavern again as he uses it to help Tai, who is getting overpowered by grunts. As just hinted, we have a Tai Lung, Tigress, and Po road trip to Juniper City. Tensions are high as Tigress is skeptical of Tai, and Tai is not ready to open up to Tigress as she reminds him of a time he wants to forget. While Po is trying to keep the mood up, but is fairly incapable of handling the situation. And, admittedly, Po is still stepping back when Tai bares his teeth, even as he is powerless. Things start to change when they sit by a campfire. Tai Lung shares all the information he knows about the chameleon, explaining that the sorceress is stealing the kung fu of multiple masters. He believes it's a coward's way to take power and not work for it yourself. Tigress agrees. It's small, but at least it's one thing they can agree on, and the tension seems to soften. To further explain their history, Tai knew Tigress as a cub. Tigress looked up to Tai since they were both orphans. They had a brother and sister bond back at the palace, but when Tai lost control, Tigress had lost a brother and felt abandoned all over again. Tai finally opens his eyes to the pain he created now that he can no longer speak with his fists. Tai can later respect Po because he mended his relationship with Tigress. He respects Po, as goofy as he is, because Tigress respects him. Okay, villain time. I have 2 ideas on what the chameleon should be, so I'll list the ideas on what I think will work. Idea 1, the demon timeline. The chameleon makes a deal with a demon. Okay, hear me out. She has to make a deal with the demon to build her an armor that can hold the master's kung fu. I want to point out in this version she can only hold the power of so many masters before it overwhelms her. When she reaches her breaking point, her body shifts and reshapes without her control, and her cool demeanor changes into one that is frantic and animalistic. She values her control more than power, so she isn't gung-ho about pushing her limits. The armor would allow her to combine and use all the master's kung fu without issue. The new plot would be she needs the armor to hold this power, but the armor is still being built, so she enslaves villagers and travelers to dig for rare ore only found under Juniper City. She also needs the masters because they are needed to fuse with the armor. This would tie into the third movie. The reason the spirit realm is full of masters is to create a barrier between evil and the mortal world. So when Kai enslaved all the masters, he left a hole in that defense. The reason the demon hasn't wreaked havoc already is because they can't exist in the mortal realm without a vessel, and this demon just tricked a sorceress to help him make his. Also, another side note, some viewers might point out that this story might be very reminiscent to another franchise with 4 ninja brothers, But I advise you, be quiet. Idea 2, the Chi Stealer timeline. The chameleon actually has to steal the chi of the living to gain power, but from weaker common people. So their chi is taken, they are weakened and forced into labor. This is how she gathers enough power to steal a master's kung fu. So it's a time limit on how much chi she can take to steal more kung fu. So the more time spent not stopping her is another person enslaved and another master having their chi taken. But she still has the problem of controlling her shifting abilities if she overconsumes. But the ore is still being dug up for an unknown reason. Another bigger villain in the background plans to use the ore to conquer China. We can demonstrate this through letters the chameleon gets. It makes her desperate enough to take more kung fu from masters, enough that her body can't handle it. I also have a small idea for a scene. It opens on a traveler who is tricked into the monastery, only to get enslaved. She knows of Tai Lung's disappearance and is worried what might come, and she makes the workers work overtime. But even with all the power she is collecting, she seems fragile. Her dress consumes her figure, covering her. She orders her men to take the prisoner to the underground. One of the guards shows regret for their actions, and they question the chameleon. This would be a great place to show how manipulative she can be as she justifies their actions to the guard, who looks like a commoner. Right when she thinks she has won, the questioning follower states that her reasoning seems off, and that's when she kills them. Their death is a gasp in the night, a hushed whisper cut off. Those who question her motive and tactics are silenced. When others question what happened to him, she regards him as a traitor and a deceiver. As for the backstory of the chameleon, I have no idea. There are some good rewrite videos that suggest the chameleon learned dark magic to defend herself, and I do like that idea. The DreamWorks team really hyped her up to be Poe's ultimate opposite, so I wouldn't be far off to have a scene where her village is also purged. But since my driving point is expansion, she was kidnapped as a child from outside of China and was forced into servitude to a dark witch, that being the way she learns dark magic. It's a little dark, but it would explain why she looks so out of place in the movie, in my opinion. Also the reason she doesn't feel remorse for the innocent people she has enslaved, because it's an act of vengeance, even if it's severely misplaced. She would only like villain masters because she would see them as heroes who hate China, as she has grown to hate it. Therefore, explaining why she would only take the kung fu of villains. It's very extreme, but it's the best I got. I do have to point out that I also didn't plan anything for Zen as a character. I know in this rewrite she can't be a thief, as Juniper City in this rewrite is portrayed to be perfect. Like a nuclear town, everything seems to be in prosperity and harmony, even if it's a facade. I would make her a teenager instead of making her look the same age as Poe. She believes in justice and doing the right thing, but despite that, defends the chameleon, showing how even the best-willed person can be manipulated by the chameleon. Even if she helps in the fight or not, I have the idea of her mourning the loss of the chameleon, even if she realized the chameleon was evil and was everything she was against, thus showing the grip she had on people's minds. As the heroes approach, they run into multiple villages that are deserted, not a living soul in sight. Just like the other Furious Five are investigating. Then they walk into a city, and it's thriving. Everyone seems happy and peaceful, and blissfully unaware of what's happening outside the walls. Poe and Tigress ask if locals have seen anything mysterious. Tai hangs back and is still on guard. But nothing. They find a nice innkeeper that lets them stay for the night, and when Poe asks why Tai is on edge, Tai tells them that the city looked empty when he was running away. But it's probably nothing. So I don't know how to convey this, but I'd like to insinuate that the whole city runs because they are trapping travelers. Juniper City will be a port city, so it's easy to cover up the disappearances. All the inhabitants know what's going on, and they all keep it a secret. They are all indoctrinated into the chameleon's mindset. They prosper from the sorceress, as she uses her dark magic to help flourish the city. There's also a legend of their land, being blessed by a dragon, and the sorceress being the result of that blessing. Cutting back to the rest of the Furious Five would show them investigating the disappearances and realizing it all leads to Juniper City. It would be a cult-like approach to the story, as people believe that she is the appointed guardian of Juniper City. That's how you feel her presence everywhere, whether it's an empty village, kids being silenced, or residents talking in whispers as the heroes ask too many questions. The residents staring them down. This gives Poe a way to open some people's eyes and join him in battle. The ending should have the chameleon defeated by the three of them working together. Tai has to accept that he needs help and protection from Tigress and Poe, as he refuses to stay behind. Tai is then tested if he is fully reformed. Poe and Tigress are temporarily captured, and the chameleon tries to offer Tai's Kung Fu back with the promise of him being the renamed hero of Juniper City. Tai Lung refuses and is able to take a sliver of his Kung Fu back, because the chameleon is exerting herself and is becoming unstable, and uses his nerve attack to stun her. This stuns the chameleon for a second, but it's enough time for Tai to help Po and Tigress out of their cages. Her desperation turns to panic as she uses her last-ditch effort to change into the dragon monster from the movie, making her lose all control, a twisted version of the Prophet coming to life. Her voice is no longer heard as it's combined with animal noises and her screams. Po is forced to use his staff to fight her and her onslaught of guards. The tides only change when the rest of the Furious Five join in, with Shifu following, and the ending can end in multiple ways. Tai can go back to the spirit realm, taking the chameleon and pledging to be Po's eyes and ears in the spirit realm for the demon storyline, or chooses to stay in the mortal realm, both for the demon and Chi Stealer storylines, to help Po fight a bigger evil. The demon ending shows a scene where the armor is done, and the armor burns as it awakens. The armor is complete, but now it needs a way to get into the mortal realm. The Chi Stealer ending shows a foreigner in China, contemplating on what their next move should be as they get the ore. And the reason I set up this bigger threat is because DreamWorks has stated that 2 more movies are being planned on being released. I'm sorry, but the original Kung Fu Panda movies were already perfect, so the only way I see this happening is expanding or focusing in on the Kung Fu group. This movie also implies that Po is pretty regional, so it makes sense that they might try to expand the world further. So I picked the spiritual and mortal world. This would have Po adventuring out, meaning the reason he would need a successor is because he is leaving China. Maybe even some of the Furious Five leave with him. We can have Zen introduced in the movie, but doesn't earn the Dragon Warrior title yet. Maybe in the next movie, so finding a successor is Po's choice, because someone needs to take care of China while he's gone, whether it's Zen or someone else. I'm sorry to my gay fathers, but their story will have to be taken out, and maybe saved for another movie. You don't understand how upset by this decision I am, but I already have a B plot for the other Furious 5 members. And that's the end of my rewrite. And man, was a lot. This is my first time rewriting anything, so I'm glad you stuck around. I feel I should have put this rewrite in multiple parts, but I also don't want to dedicate that much time to this rewrite. I already had to re-record the script 2 times. So what do you think? Like any of my ideas, or is there still something missing? Also completely understand if the rewrite isn't your taste, but I would be very interested to hear different ideas in the comments. If you would like to see the finished artwork in this video, then I highly recommend checking out my socials, link in description. And with that, I hope you be safe and have a good day. Bye bye!